Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the afternoon of Web Summit. Yeah, I'll be over here. Thank you. we get along great together, the three of us. Welcome to Web Summit. My name is Jordan French, Grit Daily News, Grit Daily Group. Big round of applause for Jules. He's been working hard as an MC on stage all day. Great guy if you can catch him. I'm here with none other some awesome guests I've had a pleasure of really getting to know, and I want to share that with you. To my left is Melanie Samba and Cesar Gon, CI&T. Melanie runs Sproxxy. You know, as Jules mentioned, jokingly, you've all heard of AI. So this talk will be, I think, a little different from what you usually hear, which I think is a pretty exciting place to be. But I wanted to first start with a question. Who here back in the day or today was an Isaac Asimov fan? Anyone read Asimov? I definitely see some. We got some blue light, but I see some hands in the air. There might be some hands down, Melanie, that either are shy or perhaps we can't see them. But Jules was right. You know, hype is a real possibility here. Melanie, we've seen this before with other technology that you've had experience with, and you, Cesar, too. But and I'm going to start with you, Melanie.
Okay.
Is it different this time?
Is it different? This is a good question. So, in regards to AI, I believe that right now we're at a time, obviously we're at the fourth industrial revolution. There's new technologies being delivered across all industries. And this is just going to be a part or a way of life. AI is not new. You know, it was already a part of tech stacks in the past. However, I do believe it is going to be something that's commonplace for a majority, if not all, companies across the U.S. using some type of AI. So is it hype? I don't believe it's hype. I think what we're doing is really rolling on adoption. We're getting more people to adopt the technology so that we can now scale businesses and be more efficient.
I already see some daylight between what I think you and Cesar will have to say with regards to the hype cycle. But in terms of, you know, it's sort of having been here before, you know, we were all listening in the audience to what you just said, and that, you know, this will be everywhere. And you know what's everywhere right now, and we're benefiting from it, is light.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too long ago, but perhaps around maybe 140 years ago, the so-called current wars with Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison. Well, what happened then?
Jordan, I think, of course, there is a lot of hype surrounding AI, but the disruption potential is real. It's easy to see that AI got to a point where there is concrete benefits in the corporate world and for humanity. And I think the provocation that you are doing is not the first tech disruption. Along the history, we passed through several of very radical disruption, like the electricity, but the telephone, the TV, the internet, smartphone, whatever. And there's a lot to learn from this previous tech revolution in terms of impact in the corporate world and humanity and society. But what is different now is, I think, two main difference between AI disruption and the previous disruption. The first is the speed of change.
Yes.
If you think about only the last 10 years, humanity increased the computing resource or nerve by a factor of 100 million. So the pace of change is unprecedented now with this AI disruption. And the second thing is that if you look at the previous tech disruptions or revolutions, normally the domain was telecommunications or transportation, was kind of a narrow disruption. With AI, basically we have something that not generative AI, but all the flavors of AI, the combination with the new technologies. The potential is to disrupt everything, every industry, and every aspect of human life. So we are in front of an unprecedented speed of change and a broad nature of impact. So this is new. But of course, there's a lot to learn about how to handle this kind of disruption, looking our history, looking the past.
Right, and we'll set and hook on that keyword handling and set that aside for a second. But I'm going to press on this. We have electricity here.
Yes.
There were if this talk were to occur in let's say 1883 or 85, you'd have us debating how much electricity is going to change the world, and it certainly did. But through today, it's 140 years or so later, maybe more, maybe less, depending on where you're measuring which aspect of that era, that technological epoch or epic. But we don't see the flood of money still going into it. So on the hype question, are we getting ahead of ourselves, Melanie? Do you already see any cracks in the system for the possibility of short-term disappointment or perhaps investor regret?
Actually, yes, I don't believe we're getting ahead of ourselves, because I really actually believe that AI is really it's really about data. As we were stating earlier, we're in the fourth industrial revolution. There is so much data right now. There's now a way to access and analyze data by pulling through AI, so we can now have more insights which will help us with our workflow. So as far as, I guess, with the AI question, to be honest with you, I always go to data. I think it's really a data conversation when you talk about AI. And so in regards to money being poured into this specific industry, or really not industry because it's across all industries, this will allow us to have more access across the world based off in regards to data across the world, which will inform the growth of different brands. So I do believe there is a need for investment in AI and for it to be pulled across all industries. In regards to whether or not it's a trend, obviously, I have a startup myself. My focus is really data, but obviously we do pull through AI, machine learning, do data analysis in my software, and I do see that every single company does mention AI. I think that trend will stop, because there's not going to be a company on this earth that is not using AI. However, Cesar, what do you think about this question? Because we had a really interesting talk the other day, and I would love for you to share as well.
Melanie, I think it's an empirical fact that we tend to overestimate the impact of a new technology in the time horizon of the next 2 years. We overestimate that. But at the same time, we underestimate the impact that will occur in the next 10. So I think the trap is inaction. If you think it's too far as a corporate, well, I'm going to wait more maturity, more reliability, privacy, security. I'm going to just watch. But then you can really face the challenge of a completely new competitive environment.
Right.
The way I try to organize this disruption is consider AI the milestone that is ending the first chapter of the digital revolution, the amazing chapter we have been living in the last, 20 years. And now it's the gateway for a new disruption, and I put a name on this, I call hyper digital. And basically saying that, trying to put a time frame in this new revolution over the next 10 years, 10, not 2. We're going to see this unfolding as Act 1. That's happening now is hyper-productivity, efficiency. It's already addressable by any company. It paves the way for what I believe is we're going to see still in a short time frame, that is hyper-personalization, customer experience. We were discussing that, right, Jordan? Now it's time to move away from screens, from apps, smartphone, and move for a more natural, human interaction. So based on natural language, and the technology will allow us to create this new layer of abstraction in the way we interact with machines. And then, in a time frame of 10 years, I think we're going to see the real disruption, that is the advent of new business models based on the exponential reduction of complex decision making. This is hard to really, we are not training our brains, our synapses, our real experience. We are training the first chapter of the digital revolution. Now we will need to learn and experiment to figure out this new set of disruptive business models. This will be the moment where we will say, wow, the world, we are living in a world powered by AI. I think, but the time frame is important in this discussion. It's more a decade than a couple of years.
Certainly, and Cesar, we're listening, and we perk up when you say that one day we might be not looking at our phones, have an opportunity to look up again and have some of these tools and our data drive this forward for us. And hinging on this word data and your emphasis around it, we all are really just starting in the last couple of years, because of sort of different reasons around privacy and security and exposure. We're really all, as an audience, just starting to learn more and more. There is so much data that each of us have. And it sounds like, from what you're sharing, Melanie, there's even more than we thought that we will be able to do with that, and perhaps can even do with that now. What does that interface look like for people in the audience who have that data, who have all sorts of metrics and whatever else? How will this next generation AI impact them?
Well, based off of who's in this audience, my assumption is most of you are startup founders or work for an enterprise and work within this tech ecosystem. So in regards to your customer, the insights that you get from the data and using or pulling through AI, obviously it will help you with customer development, knowing your customer, being able to deliver quality service to that customer, being able to build your products. You know, it actually can help you scale your business or grow in market share based off your competitive advantage by pulling through AI. So in regards to being a game changer and whether or not you want to be in that race, if you don't adopt, you may actually lose market share. However, I do think, obviously, some of the concerns that everyone has right now in regards to security and data privacy, we're all learning right now, just as we were discussing. But there's like, if you just imagine, once we figure and all learn this, what this can do for your brand, and then on top of that, what this can do for your actual customer, you know, it's exceptional. In my opinion, it's amazing once we start applying AI and actually analyzing the data and then pulling through the human element of it as well. Think of it based off of what you can do for your customer. That, to me, is where the main point is. And actually, I have been sitting here, but I would like to acknowledge Jordan because we are celebrating his birthday. Yes, so
thank you.
Let's just say happy birthday.
Well, thank you, Melanie.
So
I appreciate that.
Yes, since he's here, you know, with us today on his birthday, celebrating with us, I do want to acknowledge that on the stage today.
Thank you for the acknowledgement. I'm happy to have made it this far in life as we measure it by years. We have the time, which is great. So I want to drill into something that's I think a lot of inquiring minds here have been thinking about, because this was a relatively sleepy space for most.
Yeah.
Weren't paying attention up until November. And OpenAI was like this open, well, nonprofit essentially company. Now Microsoft bought into it, and we all know that cadre of, and we'll visually represent this, the dogs at the poker table playing against each other that are Zuckerberg and Musk, and they're the ultimate alpha, Bezos, the ultimate alpha. No one is going to want to be number two in this space, right, Melanie and Cesar? So if you could share with our audience, Cesar, pull back that curtain. What's happening right now from a product development standpoint so that we can segue easily into the handling and predictive part of this talk?
Jordan, I think as a result of the huge commercial opportunity around AI, we are seeing a bloody battle among the big dogs, among the big giant techs. And again, it's kind of emblematic that the first radical consumer application of large language model was not delivered by any of the big tech companies. It was a non-profit startup, small by the Silicon Valley standard, a small startup, 350 scientists there.
You're shaking your head. Yes, you're not surprised by that, Melanie. You're not surprised by that.
I'm not, just based off of, we had this conversation earlier about enterprises and adoption, how many years it may take for them to adopt a certain technology, and then we started talking about imminent, basically acquiring smaller companies to pull through certain technologies.
Yes.
So no, I'm not surprised based off of what he's sharing.
So don't build it, buy it. And Cesar, continue.
But if you combine this pantagruelic investment of the big techs with all the money that the VCs are cascading to dozens of new AI ventures, so it's a flywheel of innovation now. And my bottom line is, welcome to another self-fulfilling prophecy of the tech industry, because now the brain power around AI is so amazing that it's going to happen. And we will need to really embrace this change, of course, regulate this new space, but transform the business to really take advantage of this new reality. And another thing, Jordan, we were discussing is, I think it's interesting in the competitive environment to see how fast startups and digital natives will move versus traditional enterprise. And the challenge is, normally traditional companies, they need that the technology mature to a level that we can call enterprise-ready technology. And it normally takes years. So this is another thing that companies will have to figure out, how to accelerate the speed of learning, not only the technology, but the consumer behaviors trends, so they can compete with this new set of startups and digital natives that is going to use this as a big advantage versus traditional companies. So this is interesting because it creates a lot of opportunities, including for CI&T, to help large companies embrace the change, learning fast, transform the technology potential in customer value, as Melanie said, in a very reliable, secure, with security, with privacy. So this is a new game in the enterprise B2B world, and I'm very happy to be part of this at this moment.
And while you're happy to be part of this, you've also presented us with a really difficult challenge, right, Melanie, which is predicting consumer behavior and business behavior about something with which they really know very little about. If we take a poll, even a really sharp audience like this one, we really don't know exactly what is out there and the extent of what things might be able to do. I'm sure we'll get a lot of answers about prompts and perhaps ChatGPT and some other tools. But how, in terms of the handling part of this talk, how do you unpack that, whether you're a startup or enterprise? Do we just go out there and start asking questions and not worry so much about what might be pretty low data quality back in terms of what people want? Is there a better way? How do you address what we should be building as enterprise and as startups, Melanie, so people will use it?
As far as the consumer goes, obviously you have to watch their behavior based off of how they're using your applications or how they're responding on social media or other type of comms technologies. You actually can get a cue of how they would respond to certain technologies. In regards to data, I'm a big believer in data quality because you can completely positively or negatively impact the whole community based off of your data set. So you do need to be able to cleanse your data and ensure that it's coming from a reputable source where it has some credibility before layering on AI and then bringing those insights to a customer. So I guess back to the data, for me is like main focus is making sure the data is right before you start analyzing it. In regards to your consumer, there's different ways in which you can watch your consumer's behavior based off of the already existing tools that's out there, and that can help inform building your products. Obviously, we have to move forward with having product-led growth at this time where a lot of things are ambiguous. So,
and just to repeat this back to you a bit, it sounds like there's some pretty traditional ways of prospecting out what people might want. It sounds like also you're not as concerned about maybe what that feedback might be, and it's okay if people don't know what the solution is, but humans do a great job at least finding and articulating what their problems are. That at least is a starting point.
They do. They have pain points. You can find that out quickly. They may use your product completely different than how you're building it and what you expect them how to use it. They may take a long time to adopt as well, because I myself, when I hear about some of the AI and different technologies that's being pulled through in conferences where literally there could be a camera watching us to tell us whether or not our messages are resonating with the audience that we're currently speaking to. Like, that's where we are right now with AI. It's incredible and also scary, so there's a huge opportunity, and that type of data can help inform your product growth.
An important conversation. Yes. I know we're nearly out of time, so I want to give you, Cesar, the last word here.
I think, Jordan, when I think about the big challenges of corporate now, it's really, I think it's about change, right? But the speed of change is an equation of the speed of learning. And how to speed up learning, I think it's, especially in such a disruptive moment, I think innovation, the real innovation is a combination of technology possibilities and consumer behavior. And these two forces of changes are interlinked. So companies need to really deep dive on the technology, on the understanding the capabilities of AI and the stack, everything, but also put a lot of energy understanding what is changing when you put AI in the hands of millions of consumers. You're going to see a lot of awareness, and they're going to start using the technology in ways that is kind of unpredictable. So this learning cycle, you can use the technology, the AI, to move from A/B tests to AZ, or millions of tests. That is leveraging experiment mentality. That will be fundamental. You cannot predict consumer behavior with research. You need to put something in the hands of the consumers So you're gonna, and then you get the data and you learn and you react. That is the cycle of innovation.
Certainly, we're in that cycle. We're also in the hype cycle, perhaps at the peak, yep, perhaps somewhere else. We don't necessarily know for sure. That's all the time that we have. I'm excited, though, to be here, to be live at this time, albeit a year older,
Yes.
Melanie, so thanks for that. A big round of applause. Melanie Samba, Sproxxy, you guys can stand up, and Cesar Gon, CI&T. That's all the time we have. Thanks for joining us. Until next time.